Today we're looking at Nightverb, and this is another collaboration between Erica Synths and 112 dB. Although this may just look like a normal stereo reverb, there's a lot of great functionality that this has up its sleeve, such as its specialism to play around with really long decay tails and reverb times, allowing you to make ambient textures and massive black holes. It's got a really cool freeze function, which essentially indefinitely loops the sound. With 15 dials, this is a very tactile studio and performance unit encased in an aluminium shell. As well as analog stereo in and out, the Nightverb comes with USB, MIDI in and through, and a foot switch input, which you can assign to numerous parameters. It comes with 30 factory presets and 70 user preset slots with preset exports via the USB. So let's check out what this can do. Okay, so here it is. Very well made, just like their other desktop units. I believe it's about the same size and footprint as the other ones as well. It's this metal case as well, so it's perfect for gigging. Around the back, we've got our 12-volt DC power supply, which it comes with on and off switch, left and right output, foot switch input, MIDI in and through, USB there for your presets. That I don't think that is MIDI. I believe it's only through that. But I'll double check that. Left and right inputs as well. Okay, let's have a listen to something. Just got synth here, mono synth just going through the Nightverb, mono input, stereo output. Let's just bring that in. It's 100% dry at the minute. I will just mention just at this point, remember this gain can go up to plus 24 dB. You might just want to watch. In fact, I'll turn it down a little bit here. But we can really crank that input. You hear the difference that that's made. It's a much softer sound. So don't be afraid of that. I think it's there for a purpose. Use it to your advantage. I'll leave it in the middle for now. And let's just bring in this reverb. And I think this is a perfect example of exactly where this thing shines. These enormous, long, stereo, feedbacky, rich reverb algorithms that just sound, infinite and powerful. %, wet. Now, not knowing too much about this patch, because obviously all these dials could be in completely different positions compared to the patch, because they don't move when you load up a patch. I imagine a lot of this big long sound is coming from the fact probably using a lot of late reflections. So we can go to those early reflections. As you can hear, it's like we're in a smaller space now. Until we bring that. Now this works really well with the feedback. Anything over 50 I find, and we just start getting this kind of continuous reverb. So if we go to about there, well, of course then you have the size, which isn't the feedback. This is literally the size of the reverb. The feedback is taking that reverb and I guess feeding it back on itself. So with those two, you're just going to get massive, massive reverbs. But that size will also obviously impact on the early. Now that is really interesting. Check this out. This is something I've loved playing with. Loads of feedback. Late. Now I know reverbs and delays do this when you have a lot of feedback or delay lengths and stuff going on. There's a lot of like distorted, horrible brute factor coming into this. And this thing handles really well with that. I must admit, I've used other reverb machines before and delay pedals, and if it's too hot coming in, you get this horrid sort of distortion happening. In fact, and I won't mention any names, but I've had some pedals in the past that if the audio input is too hot on it, it will actually kind of freak it out. This thing kind of wants you to push it a little bit more. Let me crank that gain. So yeah, don't be afraid of smashing that input. One thing that I read was that it has this dirty mode, which will essentially turn, my understanding is that the way that it's using the reverbs in here, what it's doing, it's using these kind of delays added together to create the reverb. Now with the dirty mode, it changes those delays to like a bucket brigade delay, a much dirtier kind of delay, much dirtier reverb from those delays. Now on some patches you can hear that more than others. And I think you can hear that sometimes more on the gain coming in at different levels. But let's change that over, morph that over 10 seconds now to, what haven't we had? Did we have Rising Moon? Let's have that anyway. 10 seconds, here we go. Okay, so here we've got something a bit harder going on. I've got the pulsar here, which is running into my mixer, but I'm also taking one of the outputs, one of the voices here, voice 2, which is like the synth voice, and I'm running that into the Nightverb. So that's the only thing that's going in there. The Nightverb's then going out just through a compressor for a bit of sidechain action going on. So as you can hear, it's kind of got this kind of loud techno thing going on. Let me just take out the hi-hats and the kick drum. So we're just hearing that one voice going through the Nightverb there. I'll just make that dry so you can hear. We've just got that kind of going through there. And I've been having a lot of fun with this because what I've realized is that you can freeze the input going into this of just like kind of crazy random sounds coming from here. Freeze it into there and just use it as kind of like some textures rumbling underneath whatever you've got going on with your drums. So like almost making this kind of techno set by just using the freeze function and then playing around with the size, taking off some of the top end and all that kind of thing. Let me show you. So if we freeze that in there. Oh, let's find something with lots of feedback and big size. So we can capture that in there like that. And then you can play around with the size of this. And then when you bring in everything, you've got this kind of texture sitting underneath. So yeah, let's just try maybe a different preset. There's one here called Freeze Me, let's try that. Hit freeze, that's caught in there. And then do you know what I mean? You've got these kind of, it's more just like atonal textural stuff. And then take it off freeze, let that die out. Capture something else. So we're only hearing that coming from there now. And you can kind of play with the bass and the treble, kind of sculpt it. And then kind of let it die out again. And then bring something else in. In fact, it's quite nice if you catch something when it's quite high up, so if we unfreeze that, caught that in there now, and then we go down, get that more rumbly. Yeah, I've just enjoyed almost kind of using it as like a kind of looper for just capturing nuggets of sound, freezing it, just letting it rumble under there. If you're listening on headphones, you'll hear that low end now. It's there. Still play over the top of it, of course, because we've frozen it. We can capture that if we want. Yeah, let things die out. Capture a bit more. Let it die out, then change the tuning. Now I could do this actually if I had the foot pedal connected. I suppose I could be using my foot to freeze it, which is going to free up my hands for more kind of performance. So here's another patch. It's the same setup, except this time I've taken out this snare drum here. And that's the only thing running into the Nightverb now. Bit of modulation there going on, just on the frequency of the filter. And yeah, let's maybe make this a bit smaller. Just generating this big kind of white noise wall, and then the sidechain compression's just pushing it down again. It's just lovely. It's, yeah, absolutely beautiful. Maybe we'll dampen a little bit. Nice. Let's try. Let's try bounce. Let's see what this does. Let's make it 100%. nice tail there. So if we take everything out and just listen to those very short hi-hats I've got here. Just put some modulation on that. Give you a sense now of that isolated, just that reverb, just how wonderful that is. I'm playing with that treble. So lots of treble there, and now we're dampening. I think that really helps you appreciate a little bit more what that damp does. Frozen it. Speed that up a little bit. So there's your lates again. And the early. With the lates, obviously it's much kind of wider reverby, whereas the early is more this kind of tighter, sort of springy sound in a way. Let's go 50% wet there. We've got no pre-delay now, so it's all happening on the hit. There you go. You can hear that pre-delay. Just getting longer now. I'd love to have seen some internal modulation, which you could have applied to things like the pre-delay. You know, you can have then the pre-delay at 0 for a few hits and then go to longer. Now, of course, you could do this all over MIDI. Same with the pre-delay, I believe. You can send MIDI CC to all of these, I believe. And sculpt your sound. I really like this patch. This is nice. Okay, I just thought I'd try something a little bit politer as well. For those of you out there who might just be wanting to use this in subtle ways as opposed to massive extremities like I've been using. Here we go with a hi-hat. I'm just on the first preset. Let's put that to midway. So we've got a good signal. This is good. I do like this display, just so you can see what's going on, because you can see when you're hitting it hard, and I'm so guilty of bad gain structure sometimes, so this is really useful. Okay, so let's just take everything. Let's take everything here. So everything back, everything to there. We'll leave the volume at there. So we're at 100% dry. Let's now put it at 50. Put the treble, no damping, treble and bass there. Stereo we're in stereo, so might as well listen to that. If you listen on headphones, you can hear that. I do like, obviously, stereo reverbs. I think a lot of us do. So this is quite nice because we've got no pre-delay going on. We're listening to the early as opposed to the late. And with that feedback quite high and quite a small size, we're getting almost kind of like delays, aren't we? Like glitch. Again, some internal modulation would be awesome on that. really my intention to get these kind of glitchy sounds. Oh, nice. Bit of movement on the spin. Let's introduce some pre-delay. Just so now it's out the way of that initial transient. And as we start to bring in the late and we go from early, with that kind of feedback and that size, let's maybe go there. Just so it's more comparable, because I had it there, and just over halfway you start getting really, really long reverb tails. So anything under 50 here makes it a bit more comparable between the early and the late. So you can hear what's going on there. That shape has quite a lot of impact, doesn't it? Okay, so something I want to try is have a play with a foot pedal, because you can do a number of different things. This foot pedal doesn't come with the Nightverb. This is just one that I have. It's an old one. This fits in the back there. And there's a whole section in the menu for foot switch. I will just say, actually, I think the menu diving on this is minimal. You know, you've only got a number of kind of top level. You've got patch, effect, MIDI, foot switch, and system, and that's it. And then when you go into them, you know, there's only one level down. So hats off to them for that, because who wants to be menu diving on a reverb unit? Not me. Right. So with this foot pedal, what we could do is a number of different things. So if we go single tap and we say, okay, we want to turn that so that when I hit it, it's going to now bypass. But it can do some interesting stuff as well, like freeze, which we'll hear a bit more there. Unfreeze again. What else can you do? You can, yeah, you go forwards and backwards of patches. We've got morph on there, so it's morphing between them. We can go random, so it'll just pick a random patch. I'm not going to do that because I like this patch. And then you've got this one, which is magic, which is actually, it will create a patch for you. So this isn't a preset one. If I press this, it'll actually just create one for me. Now, I've got morph on. I wonder if it's going to morph into this new magic patch. Let's see. Yeah, it's morphing. There we go. So yeah, there you go. So you can create, that's a whole new patch there that didn't exist before. Now, the interesting thing about that is I can't find anywhere else to get to that. I will just turn morph off for now. So yeah, I don't know why that is just an option that you can only get to for the foot switch, because I love this magic patch generation. Let's make another one. Because you could just sit here and just keep generating new patches. Oh, that's nice, isn't it? It's kind of just, it's one of those ones, not much top end. Let's generate another one. So there you go, you can just kind of keep generating new patches, which is cool. Okay, so I've got MIDI hooked up, It's just coming in the back there, and I've just got it coming out of Ableton. And in terms of MIDI, you've got a whole section here where you can go in and you can find different, well, first of all, you can choose which MIDI channel it's going to receive on, what the MIDI out through is on, or what CC you want, different things like the size, the spin. So you could just go like, yeah, the size of this, I'll change it to CC, yeah, whatever you want. I've got it set to 56 at the moment. So over in my DAW with Ableton, so I've just got a clip here. So this is going CC 56. So I guess if I draw in something, it's going to play with that size. Put it fully wet. Nice. It's really responsive. Over on this clip, this is going to go out with CC 78. And 78 is controlling the feedback. So at the minute I've got that ramped right up. So this, if I hit play on that clip, now we've got the feedback changing. Now, because this has MIDI and because it has freeze, you can do something quite extraordinary with this. Check this out. If I was to just play a vocal sample through this, say, and we freeze it, let's put it 100% wet now, so it's just infinitely playing back. We can play it with MIDI. How cool is that? It's monophonic, mind you. But you could do that if you know what a particular song is. In fact, you don't have to freeze it. So if we get the vocal back here. In between red and blue, yeah, tell the truth, there's nothing to lose. If you know what key that's in and you're playing your keyboard to it, you can effectively play harmonies using MIDI to play back the reverb in there. And I guess what it's doing is changing this size. I was doing silly things just to make you look at me. Cannot win the game, but I might try again if I let my listen, babe. It's a possibility. I don't know if I'll see you again. I guess it's effectively doing that. Standing in the rain, water on my window. What's it like if we go all the way down? Interesting. Okay, I just thought I'd send in some chords. I actually haven't got a polyphonic synthesizer to hand, so I'm using Pigments. So I'm just running that out of the computer straight into Nightverb. So this is laptop DAW into the Nightverb. And yeah, let's try out some presets, see how this responds, some chords. size of the reverb. You know there's chords in there, but there's just enough overlap to just blur things a little bit. If you increase the sustain, those chords just almost just wash over each other now. It does respond to frequency content really nice, even though we can play around with the bass and treble and we can dampen the high and low. Depending on what frequencies are going in, it responds nicely. I might just leave it on that patch and let's try a different patch altogether. Again, another case of it being quite big and overlapping chords getting lost in a nice way. Let's make it a little bit drier. Like that energy that adds, it's like a filter. Some low end, but also dampen the low end a little bit. Let's go more early than late. No pre-delay. Maybe size down. That's quite nice. So even though we're listening to more early than late, you could drive that feedback of the early. That's nice. So you don't have to go crazy, massive, long, frozen feedbacks. You don't have to do that with this, remember. You can use it in subtle ways. You could use it as a send and return even on a mixing desk. But I think the advantage of this is the fact that it kind of enjoys being manipulated and it likes... I'll just turn that down a little. Yeah. I know that you can hear that distortion there. That's okay, because you might want that kind of vibe and more bass. You just might want to just take it somewhere like here. Let's dampen the high end, keep that low end in. And just fatten and warm up a sound like that. take a sound there. Nice. Dry. So we just warmed it up. Okay, let's try some vocal here.
Standing in the rain, feather down in my brain. I was doing silly things just to make you look at me. Can't win again, but I might try again. If I learn my lesson, babe, it's a possibility. And I don't know if I'll see you again or is this.
And let's turn on the morphing. As you know, I've enjoyed the morphing. And let's go to here.
There's nothing to lose when already gone and it's late, so express it. I'll be home. You told me you let go. In between red and blue, yeah. Tell the truth, there's nothing to lose when already gone and it's late, so express it. I'll be home. I'll leave you to it now.
I think you could really hear there as she was singing the kind of, whenever there was anything very top end, even it was sharp, would get picked up, but that would drop down. I can't describe it. I think it's the way that this reacts to different frequencies. And that might be to do with the high damping. So we're boosting treble, but we're damping the high. So when you do get those like tss and sibilants happening, they soon damp. We can make them last longer. Nice. Yeah, it's just very simple to use in that respect. I think you've got everything that you need in front of you in terms of everything that you want to have a play around with. And playing around with these is really interesting, boosting and subtracting at the same time. And yeah, I just think that this really kind of is very sort of creative approach to how this thing functions. So there you go, that's the Nightverb, collaboration between Erica Synths and 112 dB. It certainly stands out from a lot of the other foot pedals and desktop units that I've used in the past. And mainly because, as I've shown you throughout this video, it really does encourage you to kind of almost kind of stress it in a way. And it's fair to say that this does everything from kind of intricate small reverbs all the way through to infinite massive doomy black holes. But it's also fair to say that it does this extremely well. And what I mean by that is it seems to handle its internal kind of headroom very well. And in most cases, if you're using a lot of feedback and big reverbs, I've often found that you do tend to get kind of distortion happening. That buildup of headroom gets to such a point that, yeah, you get distortion. Now, I know in this video, there has been some distortion, some intentional distortion, because I've been using that gain input, which is absolutely brilliant because it just kind of stands there and just takes a beating from absolutely cranking the input, and it doesn't fall over like some of the pedals that maybe I've used in the past. So I guess what this says to me is absolutely use me however you want, you know, go from extremes, absolutely push it all the way through to kind of just really just touching it and tickling it. Either way, it performs really, really well. I mean, in terms of the way it sounds, I'm actually really impressed. There's not been any issues with its sound at all. In fact, if anything, it goes beyond what you'd expect for just a reverb pedal or reverb desktop unit, and I don't think it's fair just to call it that. And what I mean by that is you've got all this kind of treble you can play around with and all of the damping and just the way that the size and the feedback all interacts together. I just think it's a very kind of performative pedal, and I think it encourages you to do that with it rather than just kind of set it and leave it alone, which of course you can do if you want to. Now, I've had pedals like this before which have got MIDI inputs on them, and I've never really been encouraged to set that up, but with this one I have, and the main reason being for that is because you've got this ability to play the the freeze back and kind of harmonize with the different sounds that are going through it. And also I just found it really easy to set up, particularly just sending CC messages and playing around with the size and things like that. It became really expressive. And I think, you know, if you want to do a bit of a sound design session sometimes, hook this up over MIDI, send stuff to it, draw in some random curves, just record loads of stuff down, and you can end up with some really interesting sound design coming from this. What I also love is that ability to patch in the foot switch in numerous different ways. And even though there is a menu system that comes with this, it's only 1 or 2 levels deep at the most, so it's not really a vibe killer at all. Now, in terms of price and availability, I believe this is going to be ready in August, and it's going to be priced around 490 euros, which is about 411 UK pounds. That makes it comparable in price with their Zen delay that they put out, the desktop bass line, and the drum synthesizer as well, the LXR02. I think this is a great unit. It's got a place in my studio for sure, not just for using it as reverbs, but also using it for sound design and using it for kind of washy beds. Particularly, you know, for someone like me who makes techno, that's right up my street in terms of making kind of atonal sounds, which are heavily sidechained and pumping underneath big kick drums and things like that. This does that, but it also does really nice, just washy ambient reverbs. So I think it lends itself to a number of different styles of music production, that's for sure. I think it would have been really cool to have seen some kind of internal modulation, if that was ever possible, in software updates, and also being able to carry the freeze through when you do the changes of the patches. But I think the morphing is really, really interesting. I've never seen anything like that before, and I can't believe why there hasn't been anything like that before either. So yeah, well done for that. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this and you found it useful. If you've got any questions, put it down in the comments below and we'll try and get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks for watching, and yeah, see you next time. Bye.